rich, so you can donate.
There you go.
Okay. So, I'm your source.
We're going to go and try to get a position where we can see archaeology. Start out with. Go on the side here.
Kérem, hogy gyertek, mert együtt tudunk bemenni.
There's a stone over here, got the Star of David on it.
Oh, wow.
Right over there. Carved right into it.
Peter's mother-in-law's house.
Can you hold that for me and I'll ask for it in a second. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little quieter than usual because we've got this other small group here. But here's what I want you to look at. Okay, I want you. This is the village. Do you see all the houses out here? This is a fishing village. And so look at all those houses. And the Bible says that one of these houses, where Peter's mother-in-law lived, was the headquarters of Jesus' ministry in the Galilee. Now look out at all those houses. How are we to know which house is the one that Jesus ministered out of and lived in? Oh, maybe it's this one. With this giant flying saucer church over there. And all the archaeology stacked up underneath it. Okay, now, again, the Catholic Church did a service when they built this church to preserve the archaeology underneath it so that we can see it. So let's come and look at this.
So let's see
If you look,
if we can see the
look again out here at the houses, what they look like. And at the lowest level that you have in this stack of archaeology, you have a house.
This Byzantine church.
Okay, you have the remains of the house where Jesus ministered out of. Then above that, now we can come in and get a view here. But so then above that, then you have an early church from the Byzantine period. Okay, why couldn't there be a church until the Byzantine period? That's when the persecution ended under Constantine. And then you have that church destroyed and another church built. You have a church in there. You see this octagonal church. So you have this stack of archaeology. You understand? That goes back to the original house, like the ones that you see around here. That was the house that Jesus ministered out of, was his headquarters for his ministry. Okay, now I just want you to think of this. Look over there, and we're going to go over there in a little while here. That's a synagogue. Okay? Do you see the stones, the basalt stones that the village is made out of? Is the synagogue made out of that stone? No, it's made out of limestone. In other words, those stones were cut somewhere else and brought into this little fishing village to make a synagogue. Now let me show you this aerial view of what I'm talking about here. Okay, here, just hold that there. Okay, look at this. Look at the size of the village. And it extends a little bit beyond that wall and a little bit beyond, but it's not a very big village. It's just a little fishing village, for goodness sakes, on the Sea of Galilee. Do you see that? You see that synagogue there? It is huge and fancy. And it's the same period as the 4th century church here, is that synagogue. Do you see the competition going on? You see what I'm talking about? Believe me, if Jesus hadn't had his headquarters right there in that house, there wouldn't be this massive church next to this massive synagogue. It's a picture of history, right? And so that's how dramatically the Bible affects the history that comes after it. Now, I want to say something else too. This synagogue is directed north-south, just like the one we were looking at in Nazareth, right? Why is it facing south? Okay, so Jerusalem is this way. You see that? Now think about this. This kind of struck me one day. What is between where that synagogue, that Jewish synagogue, is pointing to Jerusalem? What is between it? Where Jesus' headquarters was. Think about that. It's really facing Jesus and his ministry. And of course, the significant thing about Jerusalem, the most significant thing, is all the prophecies that Jesus fulfilled there in his death, burial, and resurrection. You can't make this stuff up. It's like this because of the actual people who lived here and the actual events that took place. And it has transformed this little tiny fishing village that nobody should care about, that nobody should even bother to dig up, much less for waves and waves and waves of crowds of people coming in here every single day. And it's not just now that this is going on. It's been going on all through time, because that synagogue is built on top of the foundations of a previous synagogue. That was the synagogue at the time that matches the time of the houses that you see out here, and the house that these churches are built over. Okay, so the synagogue where Jesus taught from is underneath that synagogue. But trust me, it didn't look anything like that synagogue as far as how magnificent and beautiful it is. Made of basalt, exactly. Just as this house is made of basalt, and then the 4th century church is made of basalt. Yes?
So why is that? Why is it so large and extravagant in this small village?
It's so large because the Christians over here are saying Jesus, the Jewish Jesus, is the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, our Messiah, and they're saying no, you know.
We'll build a bigger building to prove he's not. Or
I mean, I can't prove that, but I can tell you that does not fit this scene if there wasn't that tension going on. And we see that tension going on even in the stories that we'll read. That when Jesus was preaching in that synagogue, that's the one underneath the synagogue that we're looking at.
is this the actual street or something? What is?
These are mosaic floors that were found in the church that they just pulled up to that level to display them so people could see them. But they're from the floor of the church. Okay, now, and think about where we were this morning in Nazareth and the layers of archaeology that mark the spot. You see, this is the same thing. You're not going to see a whole bunch of different phenomenons of how sites are marked. You're going to see the same thing, the same phenomenon, over and over and over again. To the point where I'm going to ask you where something is, and if you don't point to where one thing is on top of another, I'm going to smack you upside the head.
So you're saying those 4 tiles are from that church?
From this church, see the octagonal church walls on the outside? They're from that church.
And then out here, the one with the corner.